I'm going to start. This show is Breaking the Dam. I didn't figure out how to lower myself, so I'm sorry about that. And we're going to be talking, we're always going to have a mental health slap. I'm thinking of Smarchy. Mental health slant to things, talking about basically how the political environment is affecting our mental health. This is for friendlies only on the panel. If you are not a friendly and you want to listen in, I can't stop you. But if you're going to comment things that are ableist, or inappropriate, I might silence you in the chat because that's not what this is about. Does that make sense? And I don't think that's like I want to give you guys room to be there and listen and what have you, but don't be attacking people who are being honest about feelings. I'm not really, that's just not appropriate here. And with that said, if you want to join the panel, please come on up. Just hit the button at the bottom that says yes. The two people. Oh, thank you for the cheers. I don't even know how one does that, but it's awesome. You got crushed on that Canadian Post. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, we'll continue. I may not be responding a lot to chats just because I have a hard time focusing on what people are saying and reading comments at the same time. So I will kind of glance to make sure there's nothing like way out there that I need to address. But as a general rule, I may miss a lot in there. So let's see if any, and again, please tap, tap, tap. Tapping is clapping. It really helps get this out. And gets this to more people. So it just popularizes the live. And I'd really appreciate that because I do want people coming in here and actually talking about, you know, their feelings, their emotions, their mental health in general. So share the live. If you have, you can share to up to 15 people at a time. All you got to do is press your finger on my face, hold it for a second or two, and it'll pop up an easy way for you to share this live. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, ground rules. I am going to, no over talking, please, is a big ground rule. If you want to have a turn, and I'm not just going in order of, you can certainly just request in chat, and I'll try to keep an eye out for anybody requesting to come up. We got Lori coming up here. And I may have to, if I don't know you from past panels, I'm probably going to have to just ask you your age. And we're going to start by just going around the panel and just quickly introducing ourselves, like just like 1 minute or less.
Mom, get them in my room or their room. Shut the door, please.
Lori, your mic is on. Do you want to mute for a second, please?
Oh, so
that's okay, hon. Okay, that's my house too when my mic isn't on. So when my mic's on. Anyway, let's start with just maybe one thing we're grateful for and just a little intro into who you are and maybe what province you're from would be great to know. I'll start with the Progressive Moose.
Hey, so yeah, Progressive Moose. I'm in Northern Ontario, and one thing I'm grateful for is UBI is actually a conversation being had not only on provincial levels, but on federal levels at this point. So here's hoping and fingers crossed.
Awesome. And Desiree.
Oh,
there you go.
There we go. I'm in southeastern Alberta. What was the rest of the question?
If you want to introduce yourself, maybe say where you're from and maybe what you're grateful for this morning, just one thing. It doesn't have to be anything major.
No, I'm just grateful that I developed a love of reading very, very young.
Yeah.
That has stuck with me through my whole life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Reading is a great thing. And it's great self-care and it's a great thing to educate too. So
yes.
Awesome. Smarchy?
Sorry, I'm listening to like noise in the background and I kind of got distracted. And then when you called me, I was like,
that's okay. I was just saying if you want to just say what province you're from and maybe something you're grateful for this morning. It doesn't mean
I'm smart. I'm from Trashberta. And I'm grateful that I have found a group of people that are like-minded and non-judgmental. So
me too. That's awesome. And Lori? Or is it Lori or Lore?
It's Lori.
Lori, okay.
That's my given name. I'm from Quebec, but I actually live in the National Capital Region. So I'm 10 minutes from the Parliament buildings. It's important to note that because I grew up in Montreal. I'm a Liberal.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And one thing you're grateful for?
Pardon me?
Did you mention something you're grateful for yet?
Oh, I'm actually grateful for my granddaughters, even though they're noisy today. But
That's okay.
we're supposed to get a lot of snow, and they're kind of stuck in the house.
It's hard on the kids and the animals, right? The
Yeah,
dogs.
yes,
Yeah.
right. So that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. And if anybody else down there, we've got some boxes left. If you want to come up, you're more than welcome to. Just join in on the chat. If not, that's okay. But please do like, follow, and share. Oh, your screen is bouncing. If you fall down, we'll just bring you back up, Smarshy.
No, I have a feeling my phone's going to completely fry. I have no idea
Oh,
why.
oh,
So
that's
if
concerning,
it
eh?
does go down, it's no big deal.
Mhm.
I'll just get a replacement until they fix it and get
Yeah.
off. You know.
So yeah. So if we can get this more people shared out, that would be really great. I know I'm going to have probably a small crowd today because it sounds like there's a whole lot going on. And like right now, I believe there is, what is it, Danielle Smith, or someone from the UCP is going to be talking about education and what they're doing for education in Alberta. So that's important. I'll be addressing that later, I'm sure. And on top of that, we've got the election in Ontario. There was just debates last night, so I'm sure that's taking up a lot of space. And then we've got Trump's daily rants. I don't know if he's on today, but there's that.
Oh, he's usually on every day.
I know and people don't see how that's problematic. Like they just let him online or let him
I think
give.
he should have a handler. Not that people need handling, but I think a president needs a handler that can actually like bring him in because it's like no.
Exactly. And so there's a lot going on today, and apparently PP's doing something too. I don't know what, and that's okay. But I just expect we might not
We'll
have a
find
lot.
out eventually.
Pardon me?
Like everyone in the world, everyone in Canada will find out eventually what bonehead movie made today.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll just wait. And again, if anybody's just come in, you're welcome to come up. So let's start with just give me a second to get set up here, and we're going to talk just about mental health and specifically. Just give me a second here. Sorry, I should have had this up already. I just got to go to my spread or my sheet, not that one. There we go. Just to remind me of what order I wanted to do things in. There we go. Okay. So I was just wanted to mention like self-care. How much do people know about self-care would be my first thing. So maybe if you guys are open to going around and just talking about what you think of when you think of self-care. And feel free to add in to the chat what comes to mind for you when you think about self-care. Did you want to start, Progressive Moose?
Sure. So self-care to me is absolutely taking care of yourself physically. So whether it's resting when you need to rest, some people, I'll admit, I'm probably one of few men that will admit he loves a good bubble bath to
Mm-hmm.
help relax and unwind. As well for me, outdoors is a big one. So camping, fishing, being out in the boat, that sort of stuff is therapeutic. So that for me, that's all my self-care stuff.
That's great. That's a really great start, and you're hitting some different areas, which is really important. How about you, Desiree?
I'm pretty much along the same lines as Moose. Anything outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
you know, weather permitting. Like if it's -20, I'm not going to be outdoors. But any other, spring to autumn, and I'm a driver, so I have been known to typically, when I was working, every second or third weekend, I would take off. I'd go to the mountains and I would just drive until my spirit would tell me to stop. And I would stay there overnight and I would stay out until whatever stress or, until I had purged enough that I
Mm-hmm.
could go back to the city.
Yeah.
And typically that's what I do, but I read, I listen to music, I garden, anything that gets my brain shut off
Mm-hmm.
from the real world.
Yeah. That's awesome. And how about you, Smarshy?
Um, my self-care is actually getting my house clean, believe it or not.
Yeah,
I
and
think
that's
I
important.
know it sounds weird. I know it sounds weird, and my friends are like, "That's not self-care." I'm like, but to me, acknowledging that I have a clean kitchen makes my mind not hurt as much.
Yeah, you're giving
And
yourself a
then,
win
right,
on
and then
something.
doing laundry and cleaning, and I don't bubble bath. I mean,
Mhm.
I do sometimes, but I just like putting shower melts in the shower and just sitting there, you know.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's me.
No, those are great things. And how about you, Lori?
Uh, right now, I'm not mobile. I'm waiting for surgery. However, my self care, once I have my left hip replaced, is
Hmm.
playing golf. I love playing golf. It just gets me out of my head because you
Yeah.
really have to focus on the game. I also love getting pedicures.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. I just got one recently, and I do love going for drives. So yeah, yeah, it's a great life. I can't complain.
Awesome. Those are all great things too. So, and again, I'm just going to remind you, tapping is clapping. It just gets this live out to more people, which means more people will come in and see it, which is a good thing. Also, do share. If you can just press either the arrow button or on my face and just hold it down for a couple seconds, that will give you the option to share the live. I'd really appreciate that. And please do gift the panel. They're putting in emotional labor, and it would be nice if they got some gifts just to show support. And let's talk a little bit about. So you guys mentioned some really good self care stuff, and but self care it's a lot more like bubble baths and candles and things like that are really great, and they can really calm you down and have a place in self care. But it's a lot more than that. And radical self care is just the understanding that it's okay to take care of yourself first. And that's where a lot of people, including myself, make a mistake and fumble because we tend to put other people ahead of us or other things ahead of us. And we often sacrifice that self care for things that are more important. Would that be something that some people here can relate to?
Yeah, my kids are in their 30s now,
Hmm.
but I found myself the radical self-care was doing laundry at midnight after everybody went to bed,
Yeah.
and then finding out from my mother-in-law at the time that was her self-care too.
Hmm.
It was quiet. You could watch TV if you wanted. You didn't have people demanding of you. So you could just be,
Hmm.
and catch up on all the little things that, were, nagging at you. And I get what Smarshy was saying about, cleaning your house and doing your laundry,
Yeah.
because those things still hover over your head.
Hmm. Exactly. And it's really important to remember that self care is going to look very different for everybody. So you may not understand like lifting weights, for example, is not
Right.
something you have any interest in doing. But if it's something that makes you feel good and gets your endorphins going and gives you time to focus your mind on something, then it works for you.
Oh yeah.
It's understanding that one person's self care isn't going to necessarily be the next, and doing laundry or getting chores done for a lot of people is taking care of yourself because it's making your environment less stressful. Does that make sense, Marshy?
Oh yeah. And I'm so used to like making self-care baskets for everybody else and just taking care of everyone else. But everyone's like, you need self-care. I'm like, what is self-care to me really? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then just cleaning my house, like when I'm angry, I clean my house. My kid knows when I'm
Yeah.
angry because I clean the house from top to bottom. And he's like, Mom, who made you mad? I'm like, the world, leave me alone. And he does. He just stays in his room and he puts his dishes on the sink or on the
Mhm.
counter, and I'm like, there is a dishwasher that's empty or that needs to be emptied. You could empty it and put your dish in the dishwasher. One step, one
Yep.
thing you have to do. And he's like, and he just looks at me and goes back up to his room. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing dishes right now. So I stop what I'm doing, and it's ADHD as well, right? So
Uh-huh.
having ADHD and doing oh, I gotta clean the sink, and then oh, this is dirty. Gotta get this clean before I put that on there. So it's like going back and forth.
Yeah,
You start one task, you do another, and then you do another, and then you've got like half your kitchen clean. And it's I've realized that have had a dishwasher the last 4 months,
hmm
or the last 4 months or so, and I'm like, I really need to utilize using it because it's there for a reason, right? And I just
hmm
shove it in the closet, and then I'm like, oh, I'll do the dishes later, and then I look at it, and I'm like, we're running out of Tupperware, we're running out of things,
Using a dishwasher is self-care.
it is.
right? So I just loaded my dishwasher today.
Yeah, because I use my dishwasher and self care for me, like around the same subject. I have two boys, and it is really hard to get them to clean the kitchen. That is just
Right.
not their area. So I spent a lot of time being angry or frustrated. Frustrated is probably more appropriate. Frustrated about this and being on them like, can't you just unload the dishwasher? Can you just unload the dishwasher? And finally, I started just doing it myself. And it wasn't out of anger. It was more of just maybe I need to accept that this isn't something that's going to happen with them. I can and expect other things, right? Like I don't do the driveway, for example, in the snow. They take care of that. You know what I mean? Things like that. Just resetting. They take out the garbage and the recycle, and they have other tasks. So maybe just for me, instead of getting angry about them not doing this, just do it, keep it up, and give them other tasks to do. And that way, I'm not feeling frustrated, and they're not feeling frustrated.
You know,
And
when
that's a boundary, right? Setting a boundary or an expectation, and it's been so much better for me. And the kitchen is clean.
when my kids were still at home, they were teenagers. We lived in South Surrey, and it was on 2 3/4 acres. It was a rental. And
Mhm.
I had a really large garden. And my kids learned that if they saw me in the garden, they didn't see me,
Yeah.
you know? And if I got out of my car after work and I went to the garden, you don't see me because obviously I need to decompress. And that
hmm
was my self-care, was to go out and do all that. And it worked really well, that they learned that, mom needed that. Give me the 15 minutes.
Yes. Exactly. So
Yeah.
setting boundaries is a huge self-care thing, and it's one that a lot of people don't think about. Because if you don't have those boundaries set, you're not going to be taking care of yourself. And I'm not sure how many of you have ever heard the oxygen mask analogy. It's
Mm-hmm.
you're in an airplane, you've
Yeah.
got to put that mask on yourself before you put it on somebody else, and that means you need to be in a good place emotionally to help other people on
But
that level and to
you and
be
I,
there for them.
you and I both know as women,
Mhm.
it's almost demanded of us that we take care of everybody else's oxygen mask before we put ours on. So
Mhm.
if we put ours on first, we are belittled and
It's
told we're
selfish,
selfish
but we're not.
and how dare you. But you can't take care of anybody else if you don't take care of yourself first. That
Mhm.
applies to
Well,
men too.
Absolutely.
and
Go ahead, Smarshy.
well, no, and going off what Desiree had said and what you had said, um, my grandmother and my mother have always told me, yeah, but if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of anyone else? And then I started reading into that analogy of you can't pour from an empty cup. I'm like, but there is no, and but I never really got it at first. Like,
Mhm.
where is this damn cup that everyone keeps talking about you're pouring into? But I didn't realize it was just a figurative speech.
Yeah, it's an
Like you
analogy. That cup is your healthy self,
right,
right? And you're filling it by doing self-care, by doing things that feed all different aspects of your life. Fill that bucket. And if you're
But
not filling that bucket, you're running on empty.
right. And there's
Mhm.
also an analogy that um I use in self-care and teaching my child when he was younger that the words we say and the things
Mhm.
we do to people, when you say sorry, you may be sorry, but are you really understanding the effect of what you're doing? So I would use the analogy of okay, so you take a plate or you take whatever you take, and
Mm-hmm.
then you go as far as say you take a plate and you drop it, right? And you use it like we've done this. I have done this with him in
Yeah.
the basement. I got a plate that I didn't use anymore,
Yeah.
and I let him drop it. And I said, okay, now that you dropped the plate, is it broken? He goes, yeah. I'm like, can you put it all together, get all the pieces together, and put it all together? He goes, no, Mom, you can't because there's not
Mm-hmm.
all the pieces are there. I'm like, you see, this is when you say things that you hurt people.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You
Yeah.
got to remember that. It was a
No,
good analogy until he realized that he could just take plates I didn't like and break them, and that was no fun anymore.
I was going to say that the safer one is a piece of paper. Just crumple up a piece of paper. Ask
I
them to
learned that
straighten
as
it up.
I learned that as I got as he got older, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of people, like I said, a crumpled piece of paper is like you just bring out a nice clean sheet, say, crumple it up into a big ball and then give it to them and say, straighten this out again with no wrinkles.
And you can't.
No.
You can't unless you iron it. But, most kids aren't going to think of that. But the point is that the damage is done. You might be able to like glue a plate back together, for example, but it's still never going to be the same it was. And same thing with a
No.
piece of paper. It's never going to be the same as what it was before you crumpled it up. Yeah, and if anybody else wants to come up on the panel, please just ask up. You just have to hit the guest button in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Hi, Addicted Bear. But we're talking about self-care, and right now we're talking about setting boundaries and expectations is part of self-care, and about how self-care is really important. And you will hear from some people or get that judgment that it's selfish, but you have to remember that it's not, and it's what you need to do. It is not selfish to take care of yourself
No.
because you're not going to be in any place to help anybody in any way if you're not doing that self-care.
Okay. Can I say something?
Absolutely, Lori, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This may sound different, but actually, I think it's pretty common with women. I was a single parent raising my children, and believe it or not, self care was going to work because I didn't have that constant responsibility for the kids. I knew I had good care for them, or they were in school. And now that they're adults, my grandkids live with me with their mom. But having a career, being able to focus on my career, being able to get ahead, that was actually self-care because it helped me to feel good about myself in spite of everything that I had been through. So just my take on it. And yeah.
Well, and like I said, that's because we're going to talk. Maybe we'll talk now because it's a good way to split things up. A little bit about the wheel of self-care, and I don't know if you guys. Oh, you can sort of. Let me see if I get it right. I might not be able to do this, but we're going to try. No. Okay, I'm just going to read it. It's basically you can find a free copy. Let me just grab look at my link here at mindfulcoachingtools.com. So if anybody's looking, there are other ones that you can find on the internet. You can find PDFs all over the place. And basically it's just a circle. And there are different versions of it, but the one that I use most often has 7 different areas. Okay. So it's basically like a dartboard with 7 different areas mapped out around it. And these areas are all areas that you really do need to look at how you're taking care of your life in those areas. So like they are physical, psychological, spiritual, emotional, professional, personal, and intellectual. So when we're talking about self-care, we want to be looking at all 7 of these aspects to see, and I would really encourage you all to go and just download a copy of the self-care wheel, or it's often called the wheel of life as well. And it's just talking about how balanced you are in different areas of your life. And then you can fill it out with like a whole life perspective, or you can fill it out just from a self-care perspective. For today's purposes, we're going to talk about the self-care perspective. So I thought we would go through these and talk about ways that we can fill that cup in these different areas. So I thought we would start with physical. So physical health, of course, is really important for self-care. And taking a bath, a bubble bath to relax, and lighting a candle, that takes care of the bath anyway, takes care of that physical because it relaxes your muscles. But what are other things that we can do that help or that you do as self-care that are on the physical level. And please, comment in the, just throw your stuff down in the comments if you don't want to come up. And who wants to start?
I will.
Okay.
So, I guess it was 3 or 4 during COVID,
Mhm.
right? I started power walking
Yeah.
because in Edmonton, there's all kinds of trails and I didn't have to see anybody, didn't have to interact with a human. And initially, I lost 40 pounds,
Oh, wow.
but I would challenge myself. So that was part
Mhm.
of the process, and I started walking to music and music with different beats, right?
Mhm.
So that, and the endorphins that you get from that, even though it's walking, was crazy,
Yeah.
and so I was up to power walking. I think the most I did in one day was like 26 kilometers.
Wow.
My knees are not happy about it.
Yeah.
Um, but it was, and we moved down to the southeast corner, so I haven't begun to get back into that. So
Mhm.
that is one of my goals this year for self-care, to get back into my power walking. Like,
Nice. And just watch your knees. Make sure you're seeing someone
Yeah,
for them.
watch your knees,
I'm
please.
waiting to see a surgeon actually for knee replacement.
Yeah.
So,
Um, I'll have to DM you about that because I used to walk a lot. I used to go for like I put in like 5K every day. We'd walk at least 5 kilometers, and we just walk all across the city, and then we come home and take care of the kids. And me and my friend did this for months and months and months. If we got bored enough and we didn't want to, we were done cleaning the house, we would just literally walk around our complex and walk up her stairs and down through her house and over through mine and all around the complex. And everyone thought we were looking out of our minds. We're trying to keep ourselves busy instead of just sitting around eating junk food. We're just going to do this. So,
okay, I will come and get you when the weather's nice, and we will go do the trails down at the park. And there's
yeah.
other trails, just because when you get out of the city and away from the city, and if you're like me, you can feel that energy in the city that you need to distance yourself from.
hmm
Yeah. I go
The
like
only thing is,
I go
though,
down to the river valley and I
I'm
find it really relaxing.
my ability to walk is not as good as I used to be,
Hmm.
and that's what really freaking sucks.
Yeah. And,
So,
and it's hard. And it's not easy when you do that, but it's important to try to find other ways. Like if you can't walk, maybe just getting out in nature still.
well, I mean, I walk around my complex and I am using compression socks now, so it's easier
Yeah.
to walk a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm getting there. It's just not the way it used to be because
So
I'm
what
so
are some,
overweight. It's so sad.
it's, and COVID didn't do great for everybody,
No.
we got locked in a lot. And, I think a lot of people gained weight during COVID.
I think this is
What
the
are some other
biggest
ways,
thing.
Marshy, that you can get physical in without walking?
Um, well, I do a lot of stairs in my house. I have a
Mhm.
big staircase, and going from the basement and doing laundry and taking the laundry back down, and this and that, and it's little things.
Yeah,
I
and
walk around my
like
house.
yoga would be an idea. Um, just to get some movement in your upper body. Like if you're having problems with your knees, you might not want to do regular yoga because I find it's really hard. Any poses that have to go on my knees really
Right.
fucking hurt. So I do
You
like
can do
modified
yoga from
yoga.
your bed, you know that, right? You don't have to necessarily get on the floor and do it. You can just do it on your bed. So
Exactly.
I
That's kind
find
of what
that
I
helps
do
too.
because I can't do any knee poses on a mat. It's the mat's not even with knee pads. My knees are just too messed up.
Oh,
But I do all other yoga poses that don't require me to be on my knees. A lot of stretching and stuff like that. And you're right, the bed makes it much easier if you want to do some of the knee poses because I've got a foam mattress, so it makes a big difference. But yeah, just finding ways to work around different abilities, levels of ability.
Okay, I just want to say something to Desiree. Unfortunately, I was extremely active when I was younger, and that's what the surgeon told me caused my joint issues. But knee replacement surgery was great. I had it many years ago, actually before COVID. The only thing is, you can't kneel. You can barely kneel after because you essentially have a titanium plate with plastic in your knee. I use a pillow if I have to kneel, but it was the best thing I ever did. It's so worth it, but do your exercises, go to physio, and it really, really works. So anyway, that's
Yeah.
my thing. But I'm a positive person by nature, so I think it helps.
Lori.
Anyway,
Lori,
so
Lori.
okay,
I'm just
yeah,
going
I
to,
I
what
can't
kind of
even
physical?
kneel now, you
yeah.
know. So it's a case of um, because I'm still highly active and I'm still high functioning because I'm stubborn and I use lots of Voltaren and lots of Advil and I have a knee brace and I have compression stockings that I already saw a surgeon in Edmonton and they referred me down to where I live because it's easier than traveling back and forth. But I am opting to wait until my knee is so bad that the surgery will actually be an improvement.
Mhm.
Because if I have it now, it won't be an improvement for me because I'm so mobile.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to kneel probably, I don't know, on my knees probably 10 years.
I haven't been able to see my toes in like the longest time. I want my toes back. I want to be able to look down and see, oh, there's my feet. No, but
Yeah.
when I was pregnant with my son and my daughter my daughter, when I was pregnant with her, I was more active. But it's because when I was pregnant with my son, um, I got an epidural, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh God, the epidural is what hurts me unconditionally. I could be the highest weight I'm at right now, which is like 360, 370, depending, like it varies. And I could be as low as like 150 and my back still kills me to this
Yeah.
day. It's not the weight. I know it doesn't help, but my doctor said, you've been at your lowest and you still had issues. I'm like, I know. So it's the epidural, but everyone's like, no. I've been told by male doctors. I've been told by male surgeons, you need to lose weight. I dropped 130 pounds in 2014, and the doctor still said it's because you're fat. So
Yeah.
again, that
Sounds like
doesn't
some
do good
like
for your mental
gasoline.
health,
Yeah.
right? And it's just and my mom wants
Well,
me to
weight can
have the gastric
contribute, but
bypass, and it doesn't it doesn't help. Everyone talking about weight, you know.
well,
Oh, I've
that's the
had an
thing.
MRI, and they said there's nothing
Nobody
wrong
gets
with
thin
me.
because everybody nags them. Like that doesn't work.
I've had an MRI on my head. I've had an MRI on my back to see what's going on. They still
Hmm.
can't find what's going on with me.
Okay, Smarshy, I'm just going to jump in real quick. My mother had been told for years to lose weight. She found a really good chiropractor. Turns out her whole problem was because one leg was slightly longer than the other.
Yeah, I have that
That's
problem.
that's what my problem might be. I'm gonna go to a chiropractor.
Is it? I
Yeah,
feel like my hips mostly, and it's
yeah.
because I have one hip higher than the
And
other. And
I
so did my
think the
husband, who's a veteran, and that did like he needed hip replacement. That was one of many problems that he had
and I
before.
think it also stems from like the reason I'm not walking as much is because my hip pops out of place.
Mm,
I know I'm in my 40s and my hip pops, but it's because I popped it out of socket. My grandma's like, "There's no way that happened." And my grandma heard me walking, and she goes, "What is that clicking sound? Every time you stop walking, it stops." Like
right.
that's my hip. So not having it set properly back into place did a lot of damage.
Ooh, have
Oh,
you had it checked? I'm sorry, Jenna. Go ahead.
yeah, just a second. I just got to do something to keep the
Yeah,
live
go ahead.
going. As a puzzle to prove that we're here. Let's try again. Unverified. I put it in the right spot. There we go. Okay, we're back. Okay, and let's talk Progressive Moose. What do you do to stay active?
I think I'm kind of a bit opposite, especially at this time of year. So
Mhm.
my job entails, I mean, I'm out at 3 o'clock in the morning moving snow around and hauling snow around, right? So I've got the more physical aspect when it comes to work.
Yeah, it's taken
So
care
people like myself that have the more physical, it's definitely the opposite in terms of if you can just chill and relax, sit back, watch a movie, or winter not so much for me, of course, as I'm not a fan of winter, but especially in the summer, spring, all that, just sitting out in the bush by a fire somewhere is prime, prime taking care of yourself physically when you work a more physically demanding job
of.
and whatnot, right?
Well,
So
yeah, it's an area you're filling while you're working. You're just killing two birds with one stone.
absolutely.
So that's awesome. Okay, well let's talk a little bit about the psychological aspect. Let's see what they have to say about that, or they don't. Like, what kinds of things do you do to fill for your mental health specifically? Like coming on this live would be one thing, and talking to people about mental health, for example. Are there any other things that you might do? And I don't want to give. I've got some ideas, but I'll let you guys tell me if there's something you can think of.
If
Does
you don't
it?
mind, I'll quickly
Yeah.
jump in first on this one. As a man, I
Hmm.
will fully admit that stigma toward men right now is through the roof in terms of you don't show your emotions, you don't cry, you suck it up, you soldier on or man up, so to speak. And I
Hmm.
hate hearing that sort of thing.
Hmm.
For
Me too.
context, too, please don't look at it for as looking at sympathy, but I've been dealing with my father passing the end of October, and I can admit, as a man, it's hard just because of the societal outlook and really how, I'm in my 30s, so part of how my generation was raised, you
Hmm.
don't show that as a man and you don't allow those tears to come out. And I will absolutely say for any men watching or gonna watch later on, I don't care where you are, if you're by yourself or with a loved one, if you're in the bush, if you're in your bed, you let them tears out and you let the process take its course. Because if you don't
Hmm.
allow yourself to go through the roller coaster of the emotions, all you're doing is making that trauma and that emotional burden that you feel on yourself worse. So absolutely get the feelings out, shed those tears.
Thank you. That is an incredible point. And you're absolutely right. There is a stigma for men that the men are, supposed to tough it out or stuff those emotions deep down. And stuffing them deep down, I can tell you my husband stuffed them deep down. And then he would explode all of a sudden, usually over a tiny little thing, because it had nothing to do with that tiny little thing. It had to do with all of that stuff he's stuffing, right? About all the time. Whereas, and if you just express your emotions in a healthy way on a regular basis, or work through them yourself, even, you're not as likely to do that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
Um,
why I love Moose.
Absolutely.
He's so in touch with his, and for lack of better words, this is not me coming at you, Moose. You're in touch with your feminine side, but you're also in touch with your masculine side so that you can release your emotions and still be a man's man, if that makes sense.
exactly.
So
You,
we
you
love
don't have
Moose.
toxic masculinity where you can only be tough.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's
we're
called toxic masculinity for a reason. It's toxic for the men too and the people around them.
Hmm,
exactly. We're
absolutely.
regardless of our gender, we're all human. We all still have to go through the same, even if you want to break it down to the chemical aspect of humans.
Hmm.
It's a part of our process that we have to cry. We have to get that out, right? It's biology, as long as well as the emotional, of course, and mental aspect.
Right. And there's a psychological study that I read. I can't remember where I read it. I'd have to find it again. But it was talking about how men are like, because they're like, oh, you're always emotional. You women are always emotional. I'm like, okay, so I want to read this study that says women are emotional. No, women are emotionally intelligent creatures. Men are the emotional ones. And it's the reason they did an even further study after that that I divulged into, went down a rabbit hole. There are more reason, there are more DV cases, and I'm not saying that this is okay or any excuse whatsoever. I'm just saying the fact that these studies have been done and proven that there are more DV cases after men have watched football games is
Hmm.
a very alarming call to people that are in relationships and watching video on football teams lose because men tend to take their aggression out on inanimate objects, which I'm okay with inanimate objects, but then it leads to the physical violence of their partner,
I was going
and
to
it
say,
leads, and
yeah,
it
tougher.
escalates and it leads up, right?
Yeah, those are red flags. Like when you're
Yeah,
getting to a point where you're punching walls or doors, leaving
yeah.
holes in them,
You
breaking.
need to leave that person right now. Like, I'm not saying I don't support women in DV because I always, and men in DV because I do. But
Hmm.
if you're allowing your emotions to get that bad, you need to seek help. And I'm not shaming. People
No,
think I'm shaming
it's
when I
just
say this. I'm
finding
not
help.
shaming anybody. What, you
Hmm.
know, it's so imperative that we take care of ourselves emotionally, not only just physically, but emotionally and mentally, psychologically. Oh, and I have a bonus to tell you, Jen. I was going to tell you the other day. I made an appointment with my psychologist,
Oh,
and
awesome.
because I was seeing her and everything was doing great, and then I stopped for a couple months, and I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have stopped seeing her.
Hmm.
Amazing work. I get to
Yeah,
go back, and I hate to say this because I'm in Alberta, and it is trash. I'm not gonna lie, but I
the
only
system's
pay
not
ten
great.
dollars a month for a
We
session.
need to work with what we got.
Yeah,
But
I pay $10 a month a session because of my uh, uh tax bracket or whatever.
I was
So
going
I
to say, for
mean,
anybody listening, there are options that are free or low cost for counseling online.
right. And if you're a disability and in Alberta, they do work with you. Some people do, some people don't. But I can't say enough about this psychologist
Hmm.
because I have psychological non-epileptic seizures, which are due to trauma and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So when trauma comes about and when frustration comes about, that's when the seizures start coming, right? So I know my triggers. I know as much as I can endure, and
And
I
it is a
drop
sign of
out.
strength that you're doing this. And I'll talk
Right.
about myself in a minute because I'm in a very similar place, Marshy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing work this person has done.
Yeah. And I'm still deciding how much I want to disclose of this, but I had postpartum OCD when my son was born,
Hmm.
and it's acting up right now. So I'm gonna have to reconnect for some because of since Trump got elected, my anxiety has gone up through the roof, and that is I think I think that a lot of people's anxiety has gone up through the roof since Trump got elected. And with PP and all of this, like it's a very concerning political environment. But when my anxiety goes up, my reaction is OCD. And it's been my let's see, 16 years since my last episode of OCD, like flaring up as bad as it is right now, and it's completely different than it was before, which is why I didn't see it right away. Which makes sense. So I'm not going to get into the details of it, but you have to look at yourself and see when you need to reach out for help. And I'm not sure if I'm going to post about this or not. I guess this is going to get posted anyway. I'm not embarrassed about it. I don't want to make it all about me. So you know what I mean?
But the
But
more we
But
talk
you
about it,
matter
the more it
too.
becomes normal to talk
yeah.
about it.
Well,
You
and that's the
matter
thing.
too.
I was deciding whether or not I want to say anything about this because I know I'm going to have some haters coming at me like you've got mental health issues, but I'm not going to feed
Yeah,
stigma.
so does the whole world. But
Yeah,
we're
I'm not
not
going to feed it.
gonna sit here and denounce or dehumanize you for having problems.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
only and this is I can't stress this enough. I know I try not to overtalk people. I'm
Hmm.
really trying to work on that. And the biggest thing I cannot stress enough, the only normal setting on anything is a dryer, a stove, a toaster, or a coffee machine. Or
Yeah,
any electronic device has normal setting. No human has a normal setting. So we need to stop saying we normalize things. We need to be normal. We have to stop normalizing the word normal.
yeah, exactly. We need to be in a space where we can go, okay, you know what? I'm looking at this wheel, my psychological aspect, not great right now. I need to deal with that and
Absolutely.
bring it up to par. And that's okay. I'm great in many other ways. I'm just having the OCD acting up, and I need to acknowledge that and address it. immediately. So I'm going to be doing that with my doctor immediately, and I'm going to be going back to counseling and yada yada, because it needs to be addressed. For me to be in a good place to do anything or help anyone else, I need to also be in a good place.
I might have mentioned this in another live.
Mm-hmm.
When my son was 14 months old, I was diagnosed with PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
childhood PTSD.
Yeah.
You know, and so okay, you know, I did the meds and understood what that was, but because there was no time, me time raising my kids. You know, when they were really young, you know, there was no me time, and it wasn't until I was older in 2019 I did a trauma healing workshop. And the first time I did it was great. It was the second time I did it
Mm.
that made the biggest impacts. And all of it was tied again back to my childhood.
Yep.
You know, and so trying to get to the point that I was trying to make, but we get so busy with life, we forget about our first responsibility is to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's hard to navigate that when you have young children. You know, when you're in a red flag relationship,
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to survive and work, you know, and take care of yourself monetarily, you know, and keep a roof over your head, you know, and I think once, if we are able to get to that point where we can settle ourselves and deal with the stuff that we have, that baggage that we don't see,
Mm-hmm.
then we can see those steps that we've been making little by little by little. And I have said that as a person, my first child was born when I was 27, my second when I was almost 31.
Yep.
And I realized after I moved back to Alberta, my kids were much older, they were adults, that I stopped growing as a person when I had my children.
Yeah. I
And
can.
then after I was on my own for a few years, I realized I was starting to grow into the person I was meant to grow into,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
It does. And I think a lot of us, we put our kids, so, and I think I did the same thing a lot with my two kids too. My husband was, and I don't want to criticize, but he was very unreliable. And he was in the military, so he's gone a lot of the time. But even when he was around, being reliable for the children was just not his thing. And it wasn't okay, but I don't want to get into the details. But the point is, it had a great impact on my ability to take care of myself, because I was basically taking care of the children alone. It was like being a single parent. He would just not show up. Like he played a disappearing act.
Emotionally or physically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and literally, like, he would disappear. I wouldn't know where he was for hours. Like, he would just not come home.
My kid's dad was able to finally admit that the whole time we were together, it was 20 years, that
Mm-hmm.
I was a single parent in
Yeah.
that relationship.
Well, if anything, I was parenting him too,
Yeah.
and um, that really, that it wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't healthy for him. It wasn't healthy for the kids, and I stayed through it all because I didn't see it at the time. Now looking back, I'm like, whoa, what was I doing? And I hope younger generations don't make the same mistakes that I made. I've just got a few people that want to come up as guests, so I'm going to take. Oh, we got the Mrs. and
Hi, Mrs.
hi, Mrs. and Addicted.
Yeah, hi,
Bro.
Mrs.
Oh, and Damien. So the Addicted and Damien, if you could just take a moment and tell me your province and your age, because you haven't been on before, and I just want to, or maybe you have, but I don't remember, so I just want to make sure you're of the right age. So go ahead, Damien.
My name's Damien. I'm from BC and I'm 39.
Wonderful. And you're friendly, meaning that you're not here to debate politics right now.
Sorry?
I just was checking to see that you're a friendly, meaning that you're not here to debate politics, because we're not debating today.
Yeah, I've been watching a little bit. Seems like you're talking about healing and
Yeah.
health and that kind of stuff. So that's, yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah, and the addicted. Did you want to just tell me your age, province, and if you're a friendly?
I'm a friendly. I was here with you last week.
Awesome.
I'm Ro. I'm 48 in Alberta.
Okay, awesome. So what we're talking about, and if we'll start with, let's start with Damien. If or the missus actually, because you might need to go soon. I'm not sure if you're staying long. Missus, what did you want to add anything to the conversation?
Oh, hi. I didn't even realize I was up in the box.
Oh yeah, you requested up. You must.
Yeah, for letting me join. No, I'm just out and about. I'm here picking a girlfriend up and we're going to go do lunch. But I just was killing some time in Senior Live and wanted to join in just to say, great job. I love the conversation and just to give you some kudos on what you're doing here. Um, Mental health has been something that fluctuates in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my mental health issues have been, let's just say, environmentally caused, right? Like, what's that saying? Like, make sure you're feeling sad isn't because you got a bunch of arseholes around you, right? Like, and so I've never been, although I've had doctors try to offer, um, the medications. That was one thing. I don't know if your conversations go into medications, but I get offered medication a lot when I go and I complain to a doctor about depression or, that I have a lot of high anxiety, but it's usually related to whatever is going on in my life, and that there's a real reason to have depression. There's a really good reason to have anxiety, and the pill is not going to fix those other pieces. So I've always kind of pushed back on going down the medication route.
And I'll just cut in quickly. So medication has its place, but it's
Yes,
very personal and it depends on the situation.
it absolutely does. And for me personally, I just feel like it's from a young woman, because I'm 60 now, but in the 80s and early 90s, if I went to the doctor, because I was in abusive relationships,
Yeah.
and but they're trying to put me on the little pink pill, we would call it, and the over medicating of women,
Yes.
as a phenomenon. There's also in terms of Indigenous issues, the same phenomenon around the over medicating of a population. Somebody said to me years ago, there's a reason they give Indigenous people free access to medicine, to Western medicine. So that's when I started rethinking about how our medical system in general will over medicate people just to keep them quiet, right?
And I just want to respond to Deanna Wright in the comments. Like, I'm on meds. I will say I am on meds. I have been on meds since my first OCD, different amounts of different medications. There's one I've been on since my first time. So how many years was that? I was 29, 30. So 22 years I've been on medications. One of them I've been on for most of the time. I've gone off it twice and both times ended terribly. This time I have not gone off my meds. It's a flare-up that my meds are not controlling. So I don't know if meds are the answer this time. I'm still got to see my doctor and make decisions about that.
Well, what always concerns me.
I do need counseling and cognitive behavioral therapy. Those are two things that have worked for me.
Yeah. What upset me about the experience is that they just offered the medication. They just offered the medication. There was no cognitive behavioral therapy. There was no added pieces to it. And I didn't have a psychiatrist diagnose me with depression or diagnose me with anxiety. I was in a GP's office. I question whether they should even have the authority.
I've been lucky. I got to see a psychologist. I was or psychiatrist immediately 22 years ago in St. Albert. At 20. So I was very, very lucky. I was in a very bad place, and I did get the psychologist who saw me was only supposed to see me one time, and she agreed to see me regularly and squeeze me in, and because I was in such a bad state. I'm not in that bad of a state this time, but I do need to get help before it gets worse, because that's what'll happen is it keeps getting worse until I intervene.
Okay.
as a
She was
black
having,
woman
Drop
in
out only because the girlfriend's coming down the driveway now.
Oh, thank you.
So,
And I didn't
yes,
get to
I look forward to
have
seeing you tomorrow at the meeting too.
Okay, see you there.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
as a black woman in Canada,
Yeah.
It's always been a fight to get the help that I needed. And I remember going to the doctor, and it's be like, okay, I'm Kurt Browning is falling during ice skating and I'm crying. Okay, there's something
oh
wrong.
my God.
You know, I don't want to hug my children. There's something wrong. I don't want my children to touch me. There's something wrong. And I had to fight to get any help. They look at you like I saw after my son was born.
Mm-hmm.
I saw my doctor was away and there was another interim doctor. And I went in and said, like, I need some help. This child is, X, Y, and Z. And she wrote that it was really derogatory what she wrote in my chart, that I wasn't coping because of, being a black person, blah, blah, blah. And that, turns out my son is ADHD, OCD, and oppositional defiant disorder, you know,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
but
really?
she
Interesting.
labeled me
Do you think,
as
I'm just going to cut in quickly. Do you think, and I feel like you're saying this, and I don't have any experience with it. Do you think color makes a difference
oh,
in our,
definitely.
Oh, absolutely it does.
Absolutely.
The ODD, especially.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's very
Um,
black neurodivergent coded.
Yeah.
really?
It's,
Okay.
but it's like, to fight. And then, one time I went to see a psychiatrist because I felt like I was going nuts. And he just brushed me off and said, oh, you're fine.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I've not had that experience.
Only
I'm
one meeting with him.
or YT, and I wonder if I have a different experience in my mental health journey because of that.
Right.
it absolutely is. Because I'll tell you this, I have had seizures my entire life. I've had them since I was 3 months old. I
Yeah,
contracted meningococcal virus
yeah,
when I was 3 months. That has made me have seizures my entire life. I went to the doctor and I said, I'm having seizures again. I need to get some testing done because we need to figure out what's causing them.
mm-hmm.
The level of entitlement this doctor gave me when he was like, "Oh, I'll give you some medication." I'm like, "Well, before giving me medication, can we do you know, some testing first?" He's like, "I'll give you an MRI." I'm like, "That's not what I need.
Yeah,
I need to get neurological testing done." He refused for 8 fucking years. He prescribed
wow,
me an epileptic medication. Not being epileptic, it almost, he basically was unaliving me for 8 years. He
hmm.
would not give me any neurological testing. All he did was give me MRI after MRI, and nothing showed. And I said, of course nothing's going to show. You have to give me the neurological testing. My dad, my mom, my, well, now my ex-best friend, at the time when we were still talking, she came with me and said she needs help.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get her. Even my dad couldn't get through to this doctor. They're like, if you're not going to give her the neurological testing, we will find someone who does.
Yeah,
So in 2018, 2009, no, 2018, I switched doctors. I was like, I'm done with this doctor. I cannot deal with it. I
yeah,
need someone who's going to actually listen to me. It took me 3 months to see a neurological specialist with this new doctor. It
yeah,
took me 6 months to go get the testing I needed to find out that the medication that the doctor was giving me was unaliving me slowly because
yeah.
it was eating away at my brain. Now, I don't know what the residual effects are after that medication, but being an Indigenous person and getting medical help is really scary. I don't go to the doctor very often because I'm scared, and it
And
sucks.
that
But
does.
that's my life, right? That's the way life goes, and unfortunately, it's gonna be like that until I don't know why I'm alive, right? And that's not a thing I want to think of. But with the new
Neither does others.
administration in office, it's very likely that I'll be unalive because they'll take away the medication that I need. And
And
I
they
have my doctor
are
now.
training on
And,
doctors on mental health and
right.
DEI, like in
Well, and
understanding
that's the
different health.
thing, right? That's the thing, Jenna. It was my new doctor that I had. My doctor that I have now is amazing. She said to me, She's like, "Are you taking your meds?" I said, "No, I'm not taking the meds you prescribed me, and this is why. I've looked up the side effects. I don't feel comfortable with these medications.
Yep.
All I can tell you is that I'm microdosing with lion's mane,
Yep.
and that is helping me get the boost of energy I need, but it's also helping the neurons fire more, and they're
Yep.
actually starting to fire up a lot more." And she goes, "So you're doing this without asking me?" I said, "I've done my research and I'm tired of the doctors telling me they have to check it out before I can do it. So
Right.
either you're
And how
gonna
is a
okay
mushroom
it
going to
and
hurt you? Like,
right, exactly. A mushroom's not gonna hurt me." And all she said to me was, "If this is what you feel is working, continue doing it." She didn't bite me on it,
that's
but all
good.
the
That
other
was really
doctors were fighting me
condescending.
on it.
But
It took me until 2024 to find a doctor that would actually say, "You can do what you need to do. I'll support you." She asked me, "Are you still taking your lion's mane?" I said, "Not right now, but I will eventually. I have new bottles and I have more." So I had to make sure I had the amount of medication I could take. And just
yep.
taking the lion's mane and nothing else, I feel fantastic.
Good. Then it's working for you. And it doesn't matter like whether it's medical or psychosomatic. It probably is. There's a lot of studies are showing good things with mushrooms,
Mhm.
but it's working.
Doctors are supposed to be our partners in healthcare.
Mhm. Exactly.
Mhm.
And I'm not surprised that there is bias and maybe outright racism in the system. And that's really disturbing. But definitely unconscious bias is going on. Like there's no doubt about that. Even if they don't intend to, they're not taking you seriously. And that means they need to be doing more DEI training, like which is the stuff PP is going to get rid of. But we won't get into the politics of it. But going backwards in time, which is what we're seeing south of the border, is not what we need to be doing right now.
No. And
And
the,
yeah.
the fact that you and I are two shades different
Hmm.
is going to automatically deter me from getting the proper medical care that I need
Yeah.
that you would get because
When I
I have
reached out
gone to doctors.
the first time, I got a diagnosis.
Yeah,
I
first
have
time.
a friend who is Italian, but could be easily mistaken for Middle Eastern because of her coloring. And it took her, I think she's in her 60s, and she's finally got a diagnosis for something that she's been struggling with her whole life.
Right. But see, this is the thing. There is medical racism and people don't see it. They're like, "Oh, you're just doctor shopping." No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. I've never doctor shopped in my life. I've given my ultimate trust in doctors, which um, I don't think has ever been a problem for me trusting
Mhm.
doctors. But the doctor I had in medicine had here was dicey. He
Yeah.
always played with medications, and it was just. And I can't stress enough though. They just recently started in the last 30 some years looking at the female body
Yeah.
and definitely seeing the effects that medication have on women's body next to men's body because birth control being one of the medications that women take
Yeah.
were tested on male, not female.
I wish that was
They
surprising.
they were tested on male rats and male human males that and men. That's what it was tested on. Wasn't tested on women. Wasn't tested on female subjects or anything like that. It was tested on male, and it blew my mind. And I'm like, yeah, no, not taking this. Don't feel
Well,
comfortable
and
taking it.
it's really important to do the research into your medications before you start taking them and make sure that it is like, and I'm not anti-medication. I take medications myself, but know the side effects, know how long they take to work, know what they're supposed to do, know what they're supposed to be treating, et cetera, et cetera. Your pharmacist can give you a lot of information too. If reading isn't your thing, sit down with the pharmacist and talk to them, tell me the side effects. And you have to make a decision based on the pros versus the cons because all medications have side effects. Oops, sorry, that's my phone going off.
And
But you need to be, and unfortunately, and this is for everybody, not sometimes, often you need to be your own advocate because, and that's what Smarshy is talking about, doing the research, themselves and coming to the appointment armed with questions because doctors and even psychiatrists, they want to like, and this is the case now, you get one appointment, maybe two, if you're lucky, and they just want to give you medications and throw you out, give you a diagnosis, give you medications, and then they're done with you.
my
And
day
that's not enough on its own.
my very first appointment, I found a nurse practitioner here
Mm-hmm.
in the Hat. There, like I wouldn't say I was lucky, but I know how to search, and I used the College of Physicians and Surgeons to do my search instead of the PCN, right? And when I went in there, I made sure I told her that I am African Canadian
Mm-hmm.
and that she understood there are things inherent within the Black community
Yeah.
medically she needs to keep in mind
Yeah.
when ordering tests, et cetera, et cetera. So that was off the jump, I told her. You know,
Good.
I was fortunate that the doctor I had in Edmonton
Mm-hmm.
was North African. So
Good.
he was already well versed. He was the one that found the thyroid cancer. He was the one who did all of that stuff
Yeah.
that the YT doctor I had in Vancouver for a whole bunch of years did not do.
Yeah.
You know, so now, like I have been telling people for a long time, you absolutely have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And if the doctor says something or does something, you absolutely have the right to question and push back.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of, like, just again, I can only speak to Albertans, but there are a lot of options. Oh, actually, there are a lot of online options for free counseling across Canada. Um, if you, I'm not going to say them here because I don't want to advertise anyone, but if you're stuck and you need help with it, just DM me. But they're also through Alberta Healthcare, we have primary care networks, and you can go to your family doctor and ask for counseling through your primary care network, and that is covered under your Alberta Healthcare. So just something, for people who cost is a factor for.
Right. And
Yeah.
some of those clinics, if they're under the PCN umbrella, will have somebody on staff supplied by the PCN that you can see in clinic.
Yeah.
So that is another option, and it's not extra. Sometimes they're really booked up.
Yeah.
I know the one in the last clinic I worked at was booked up 2 months out, because he was only there 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Do that. Just do that.
That
Get
not
the
helping.
wait list.
Yeah, don't count on medication on its own, because medication alone is not going to fix everything.
Ro wants to say something. She's had her hand up in the comments for a bit.
Oh, who? Lisa? Lori?
Ro, Ro.
Row.
Ro?
My nickname's
Go
Ro.
ahead. Okay.
Uh, oh crap. Okay. First, I feel I know Mrs. left, but she brought up the pink pilling,
Mm-hmm.
and it happened a lot in my family. Um,
Mine too.
when I was 17, my sister lost a child,
Mm.
and we all ended up pink pilled onto Prozac.
Yeah.
And like none of us knew about this till later, but I'm the one that had the reaction,
Mm-hmm.
and I react really strongly to some medications.
Yeah. And some people.
So when the doctor took me off it, I was at school. I had a reaction and hallucinated ants,
Mm-hmm.
and my teacher had to take me and get me sent home.
Yeah.
And then I was always like the Igor in the family anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but that kind of started my way to medication. And when my dad got sick when I was 20-ish, they kind of just pink pilled us again to deal with my dad.
Yeah.
And my mom actually had to advocate with a naturalist and he helped her find medication to, like, he diagnosed her with lupus years before her doctor did.
Right.
And he's the one that got her, like, she had medication from her doctor, but the natural pills.
Yeah.
And what he set up is what got her to the point where when the doctor actually admitted she had lupus, her body could handle those meds.
Right.
And I was just I got lucky,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, because the first doctor I had didn't want to give me meds for it.
Okay.
she tried everything before I went on medication. But when I met the psychiatrist, because I dived into booking to not deal with my dad's issues,
Yeah.
I pretty well told her, oh yeah, I'm bipolar, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, and she just signed off. Like, so I don't even know if my diagnoses years later.
Are accurate. Yeah.
And even now, like trying to advocate for menopausal help while on medication, they keep trying to give me the same medication I've said no to and been put on 4 times because it helps you lose weight.
Yeah, I was going to say there are some herbal remedies that do help with some of the hot flashes. I'm going through that myself, so that you could look into.
I really like black cohosh for the hot flashes.
One of them.
That saved my sanity. It's
because I don't want to do the estrogen. So like, and that's a personal choice. I just don't want to do the estrogen. So I'm using herbal supplements myself.
Oh, I did them for years. I went into early menopause because I got my tube side. So I've been doing black cohosh for 10 years, and I love it. I really do. It was other side effects that I finally said, I think I need a little extra.
Yeah.
But the extra gives a side effect of migraine. So I'm now in the, what can I take that won't have an extra so I don't have to take more pills on top of what I already take for my mental illnesses and my fibromyalgia. Like, but it's tested on men. Well, good for them.
So let's see. Does anyone else have anything? Because we should move on to the next. I don't think we'll get through all of them today, but we should move on. Anything they want to wrap up with psychological?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say that I think a big issue with the mental health care in Canada, or at least in BC, is that psychology is not considered a medical thing that's covered. It's only private. So if you don't have money, for example, you can't even get diagnosed with autism in BC without paying thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
There's no public option. And so, and that's what I need. I don't need, I know there's counseling options, but I need psychotherapy. I need someone to help me deal with my emotions and work on my trauma. And I've done a lot myself, but I think I need someone with a outside perspective.
And there may be some what they call sliding scale options. If are you familiar with 211?
Is that in Alberta or no? I think I know. I think we have it in BC. I think I've heard of that. Yeah,
you do have it in BC for sure. Try giving them a call and ask for low cost sliding scale counseling options.
All right. Though not to get too political, but I think the new NDP and Green alliance is going to be putting psychology in the healthcare plan. I've heard that's a rumor. So yeah, that's what
it feels like something they would do. Like, I mean, I don't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I heard. I best I could say it's a rumor, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just quickly to add to that too. I just want people to know when you're looking across Canada nationwide, part of the issue when it comes to mental health resources too is the fact that only 7% of the overall healthcare funding across Canada goes towards the mental health aspect. So it's greatly underfunded compared to what it should be, absolutely. So that's something we got to fight moving forward as well when we advocate for ourselves.
Absolutely. Okay.
I just want to say something. One of the best things a psychologist told me was, take your place in the world. You have as much right to be here as anyone else. And I have carried that with me. Well, I'm 72. I have carried that with me for 40, 50 years. And it has helped me so much. I say it to my daughter. I say it to my son. And also, on another level, I'm currently getting off antidepressants because I've been on them since I retired, believe it or not. Just as I was retiring, I had a breakdown. There's a lot of reasons, but I worked for the Army. I worked during the Afghanistan war. I saw things that civilians should not see. My staff worked on things that were hard to take. But anyway, that's over now. But I'm currently getting off my antidepressants, and how my doctor's doing it, and it's my understanding this is common, is they cut it first. They don't take you right off. They cut it. She cut it in half. She diminished my level of medication. And I think I'm ready, even though we're going through hard times and I still feel sometimes the pressure. I do a lot of meditation.
Good.
I really find that it's helped me tremendously. And for me, that works. Things are different for everyone. Understand, I'm not criticizing any of you here. Everyone has a different path. But for me, this is the path that I'm choosing, and it's working for me.
If I can give you a suggestion, Lori, look into microdosing, really look into it, deep dive into it, because it can help a lot of people get off medications. Now, I went cold turkey off my medication. I shouldn't have,
No,
but
that's
I
not.
did,
No.
and I'm silly for doing that. And I also listened to high frequency on YouTube. They have like a high frequency thing on YouTube, which
Yeah.
helps tremendously,
Yeah.
and that helps me. I haven't done it in forever because I'm so focused on getting the political party, the right political party voted in. I'm worried about everyone else. I've kind of just neglected myself. I'm not gonna lie.
Hmm.
If I'm being truly honest, I've neglected myself for the last couple of 6 months. But just doing the high frequency and the microdosing helps tremendously with me.
Uh,
So
yeah,
just look into it if you can. If you want, I can give you some good information sites to go to. I can send them to you through here, and you can just click the
yeah,
link and put them in the search bar. I
yeah,
would be willing to help you out with that because it's helped me
yeah.
astronomically. When I'm on it every day, and all I do is take three capsules. That's all I do, and you can get them off Amazon for like $20.
Oh, I
Not
see.
what's Amazon. But
I know we're trying to boycott Amazon
Yeah, I'm
Prime.
that's
trying.
for everything, and I get that. Like I can't. I'm not gonna lie. I can't for everything, but I've cut like 90% of my Amazon at least.
Same here. Same here.
But I admit there
Uh,
are certain things that I can't. That's the only place I can get it, and I
right, and unfortunately, sometimes they're the only place I can get for cheaper than what stores want in here, and I understand that, right?
it's a financial thing exactly, and so
It
I'm not
is.
judging
For
anybody.
me, it's
I'm
financial.
who can.
Oh, and one thing before I like mute my mic, the fact that someone is in the comments saying, you know, there's medication, it does help. Yes, it does help.
Mhm.
But some doctors just give people of color medication or nothing at all, and they give us too much, or they just say we're pill shopping. And that's the stigma that we have placed on us.
Yeah, and in medication alone is probably not going to be enough. It's like medication is a piece of the puzzle for some people, but you need to do the other work. You need to do counseling. You need to look at your life and what areas need boundaries and expectations and like there's a lot of inner work that needs to be done that the medication isn't going to do. So I don't ever advocate for a medication only approach. It can be a piece of the puzzle for people. For some people, it works for me, and I do need it for my OCD. But that's me and my particular situation, right? Somebody else with OCD may have a completely different take on it, and we need to be treating people as individuals, not as like stamp cards, like the same solution for everyone. Boom, boom, and that's how it feels sometimes with medication. Yeah. So, if you guys are okay with it, let's talk about spiritual for a few minutes. We'll not get through all of these, but that's okay. And spiritual, I don't want to say that you have to believe in God because you don't. Spiritual is feeding your soul, right? And for some people, that's as simple as connecting with nature. But for other people, it might be connecting to their heritage, their cultures, their religion, their own sense of spirituality. I have a very eclectic view, for example. I'm not a part of any religion because I find that the dogma it doesn't work for me, and I just it doesn't make sense to me, and that's okay. But I love religions because I love the cultures, and I take from many. Like I've done many courses on world religions. It's always been an area of interest for me. So I take different pieces that I think that speak to me, that sound true to me, and that's what I believe in. And I believe that all religions, like for example, my bigger belief is that all religions are just ways of speaking of of God or gods speaking to people in ways that they understand. That's why it's different in different cultures. But at the same time, the tenets or the basics of morality are very similar. Does that make sense? Anyway, that's just my spiritual. So what kinds of things do you guys do to take care of your spiritual self? For me, it's meditating, and honestly, like I'm more pagan in the things that I do. I like to light candles and set intentions and things like that. If you're not comfortable sharing your spiritual, you don't have to, because not everybody is, and that's okay. But if you do want to talk, just take off your mic and unmute yourself and go ahead.
Okay, I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
So back when I was attending church,
Mm-hmm.
part of my thing that I realized is when I was out in nature,
Mm-hmm.
listening to the wind in the leaves and the twinkling of, rivers and all that, that's where I heard God's voice the
Mm-hmm.
clearest. I don't attend church anymore because church hurt is a real thing. And there's too many conflicting things coming out of pastors' mouths, and too many things that I don't personally believe in, and you can have a sermon without throwing trans people under the bus, so I stopped going. But me, I've always been more spiritual anyway. I didn't recognize that until I got older. Some things that help me connect with that are when I lived in Edmonton, I would go out to Elk Island and just sit and wait for the buffalo.
Yeah.
And I can be, I don't know what it is, but I can be, buzzing at 100, and as soon as those buffalo come, I'm calm. There's something about, maybe because they're almost prehistoric and they look like wisdom to me when I look at them. The wisdom of nature and the world. And so I will try, when I lived there, I tried to do that. Here, being in the Badlands and going out to the Badlands, I'm not far from Dinosaur Provincial Park, so I can go there and I can just sit away from people. As long as I'm away from people, it's a spiritual experience for me. Digging in my garden is good. It's a bit of a patch until I can get away, to have my hands in the soil, but it's always being away. The other thing I realized that gives me a spiritual connection, and I'm not First Nations,
Right.
but listening to, I went to a powwow for the first time in 2011, and the drumming does it for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because it's a connection with my African roots.
Yeah.
But the drumming, and I fortunately I have some videos that I made, and I come across them and I listen, and it's I don't know. I don't have the words for it really. I don't, but it's just
As I say, drumming is very primal to all of us in a lot. Like when you look around the world, drumming is in all kinds of different cultures. Indigenous, African, Australian. It's a very primal thing, and it I think it reminds us of a heartbeat, which is the first sound that we ever hear, really, when we're in the womb, which is really interesting.
We may have had it before words. We may
I
have
wouldn't
had
be
music
surprised.
before that. Maybe that's why it's a universal language.
Exactly. Like no matter what culture you go to, drums are a common theme.
As soon as I hear those drums, I'm
Pardon?
absolutely at peace.
Me too.
And
I love
for
drumming.
me, spirituality for me is I don't like candles just because I have a iffy relationship with candles.
Hmm.
As a young teenager, but I light sage in my house, or I sit outside and I will have a cigarette and a coffee and I'll light sage and I'll just kick my foot. I'll have my moccasins on, but
Hmm.
then I'll put my feet to the ground and I'm like, okay, I want to touch grass, and then take my shoes off and I touch the grass, and that is so much more because it sounds weird and everybody's like, that is the weirdest thing you've ever said, but
No, I do.
and they don't understand it. But it's like I can feel the vibration of the earth through my soul. It
Hmm.
is so fucking weird, but so enlightening at the same time.
Yep.
It is
Yep.
so amazing and absolutely astronomically life changing when you can feel the vibration of the earth through your soul. And you're just standing, you're not doing anything, you're not fighting anyone, you're not yelling at anyone. You're just literally sitting there with your feet on the ground, barefoot on the grass, touching a tree, and you can feel the earth vibration through your body.
Yep.
That is, I'm going to say it does better than having an intimate partner at the time. It is that much more better because it's connecting you to that.
I
Oh,
love
it is.
nature, like sitting under a tree or like grounding, which is like just putting your feet on the grass, like what
Oh,
you're
yeah.
saying, and just
So
feeling that.
when everyone on here tells me to touch grass, I'm like, I touch grass every day, but there's snow on the ground. I'm not getting my feet cold. I'm not
Yeah.
sticking my feet on cold. No, no, thank you.
Well, it's yeah, exactly. I'm not a winter person. I because I love, like I garden in the summer and I'm very much outside, but in the winter I'm not. I don't like the cold. Anything colder than -10, I'm not going for a walk. I'm a wimp. Uh, but I'm going to be trying to do more exercising to get that physical and work on the spiritual. So I tend to focus more on my spiritual during the summer in a different way, or in the winter in a different way, which is kind of like meditating, lighting candles, um, just being in tune with nature, like in a way that makes sense to me, indoors. Let's see. Does anyone else want to add something about what they
I was
do?
actually just gonna kind of go along
Hmm.
those lines. Again, going back to I'm an outdoors guy in the summer and spring and just good weather, right? And I think spirituality, a lot of people forget it doesn't necessarily mean religion.
No.
It's more so just your soul, your own individual spirit, and lifting yourself up. And for me, that's exactly, when I go out, it's not somewhere where I have cell reception. When I go out, I'm, an hour and a half, 2 hours back in the bush, no cell reception. There's
Yeah.
no white noise from society. It's getting down to the bare basics of just living and getting rid of all that white noise from
Hmm.
society and bringing it back to be able to really connect with your soul or spirit, without all the white noise and being able to hear yourself over everything else. And yeah, just getting the time out there. I'll agree with, touching grass. If I'm out and I'm not chopping wood or something for fire at night, you're
Yeah.
barefoot in the grass or, whatever whatever terrain you have, and just soak it in when you can. I think
Exactly.
it's the best thing humans can do is just to get away from technology, get away from the hustle and bustle, white noise, and
Hmm.
just get back to the bare basic nitty gritty.
Exactly. How about you, Lori? Did you want to?
Yes, yes, I have a couple of things. My good friend Screaming Crow here, who lives close to me, her name is also Lori. Uh, she took me out in the summer when I had a, a, a little bit of a crisis, and I was upset. And she brought a huge bag of duck seed, and we went and fed the ducks, and they were coming up to us and eating out of her hands. And that was the best
Hmm.
therapy you could ask for. I just forgot all about what was bothering me. And we did that for a good hour and a half. We had so much seed. And, Indigenous people, I have to give you credit because you are so in touch with nature. And it's something that I've always appreciated. about Indigenous people, but nature I've always appreciated.
Mhm.
Now, what I do, because I live really close to the Ottawa River, it's a marina actually, and it's frozen right now. And there's people ice fishing out on the river
Mhm.
close to shore. And we go and we drive over there and we watch them and the water, and just because there is open water, but just watching the water, just watching the people fishing, that's my religious
Yeah.
healing, because I was raised as a Roman Catholic and there was a time when religion got me through some hard times, but
Mhm.
like everyone, I'm not religious anymore. And this is my my therapy. It's wonderful. We do it all the time. So, that's something I do. I do a lot. My daughter and I go. She loves it too.
That's
It's
great.
healing.
It is. And Damien, did you want to add anything?
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't. I'm gonna stop myself from rambling. I'll just say a little thing about what I've been thinking about as I've been listening to all y'all, because I agree with going out into nature. Um, I grew up I was Christian when I was a kid, but then I sort of questioned too much, and they unfortunately told me that God was all powerful and all knowing and all seeing, so I didn't have to go to a certain religion to connect with God.
Mhm.
So I just sort of, me and God just chilled out during. I don't. I'm not saying I literally think that God is like true, or there's a personified person around or something. I haven't really decided, but I don't know. Right now, I'm enjoying just sitting and listening to you folks. And
Cool.
it's making me feel spiritually connected to like real people and not all these fake commenters. And I post a lot about politics, of course. That's why I'm here, I guess. And it can get kind of draining dealing with seeing the words, even if they are probably generated by an AI or a robot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's true that maybe I should take a note of talking about that, because reading like all these negative comments that are, it can be really hard. I'm philosophically deciding right now whether or not I might want to just stop addressing them for a while, myself, because I need to, um, just talking about spirituality, I need to take back some of my time for my own mental health.
Yeah, I'm trying to approach this creator space now as less debate and more discussion.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to, we don't have to entertain every viewpoint, every ridiculous twisting of the logic. And I don't want to argue things where it's a disagreement on reality or logic, but if we're disagreeing on degree or about programs or nuance, I can do that. But I don't want to discuss like whether this NASA and everyone is lying to us about the moon or something. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and then I find I'm repeating the same things over and over and over again. So one way I might address it is just do some common videos, like talk about specific issues, and just link them to people once in a while when they are harping on it. But I'm working on that today and deciding what my boundaries are, because I'm responding to too many hate comments, and it's
Mhm.
not really, it's not. I don't think I'm doing any good.
Girl,
And,
you do.
and it's,
You do. And it's like, I feel for you and I wonder where your breaking point is going to be.
mhm. No, and
The
that's
more you
that's why I'm
respond,
nothing where, like, I'm not saying I'll never reply to a hate comment, because I will, but
Yeah.
I need to cut back on how many I bother addressing. It's because it's too many, and they're all the same anyway. So I'm
they
just
keep coming at you with more and more and more, no matter how much you respond.
exactly, and it's exhausting. And they think that they're winning if you don't respond. Maybe I just have to let them think they're winning, because I just, it's exhausting. Trying to reply to like 10 different, and they deflect, exactly, deflect. They just come up with other excuses, other reasons that and I've been through all of these reasons over and over and over and over again, so it's just redundant, to me, right? Because I'm getting tired of talking, like, one in particular in Alberta is and with PP is the gender issue and trans issues. And I don't know, I educate, and it's really important that people have a chance to get education on that. but I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, meaning like people either get it or they don't. And um, I don't know how much good I'm doing. So it's not that I'm going to stop talking about it entirely, but I don't know if I'm going to just bite every time they bring it up. Does that make sense?
I mean, you're not a bad person for presuming that they just would want the proper information to make the proper decision. You're assuming the best, and it's not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's where the disappointment comes from. It's assuming that it could be better from certain
Yeah,
people.
and a lot of bots too. Like
Yeah.
we've all got a lot of bots, and we just like I block them when I'm fairly sure they're a bot. I just block because I'm not going to spend my time on that. Um, and some people are probably getting blocked that maybe aren't bots, but just come off like bots. And that what that's okay. But if I see
Well, I
someone with
mean,
an active
they,
profile, I don't tend to block, but I might just start ignoring. There's a
well,
difference.
a bot can be either made of silicone or carbon. It could be someone just following orders without thinking. So
Okay,
either
well,
way, they could be bots.
and I think that the conservatives, and I'm kind of getting off topic, but the conservatives ask me all, and I see them on other chains and other people, creators, asking all the time if what we're getting paid or who's paying us, and we're
Yeah.
not. But it makes me wonder if they are, because they bring it up all the time,
Oh,
right?
have you not heard that they apparently have been doing that? People
Mm-hmm.
pay progressive Canadian content creators to kind of be picky with other left wing folks, and they get into fights, and then they whine about it, and then they go to the right. It's actually been they've I don't know. You should. I've heard that that's been happening a little
I've heard
bit.
rumors. I haven't had time to investigate, to like, so
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
heard the
know
rumors
if
too.
it's
I haven't
true.
like super looked into it, but like I believe it. I believe it. There are people with enough money to waste on that.
Well, exactly, and we Musk said he's backing PP, and he bought the American election and donated tons of money to the campaign. So, do I believe that behind the background that he might be paying people? Maybe. I mean, it's not completely out there.
I mean, I don't have any evidence or anything, but like
No, neither do
it
I. And
makes
that's
sense
why I
to
can only
me.
say
It
that
makes sense.
it's a theory, right? And I think
Yeah.
there might be something there, and whether or not there's evidence. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, generally speaking, but it's
Yeah, me
pretty
either.
like the guy has said he's backing PP, and that the liberals will be out, and that's good for them. So that's enough. Knowing what he's done in the states, that's more than enough for me to think that it's possible.
I agree with that. And just kind of circling back around a little bit, just because talking about spirituality on to those who are on the religious side of spirituality, or those that might look at spirituality more of a religious point of view. I mean, the fact is, regardless of who you are or what your spiritual beliefs are, I think we can all agree that at one point or another, because of where we were mentally or emotionally, we've all cried out to some sort of higher being, whatever
Mhm.
that being might be, if we even can comprehend what it is.
Yeah.
But it in the end, like, to go with the conversation that's already going, like, conservatives, I will absolutely say, like to lean more towards their spiritual beliefs when it comes to dealing with a lot of stuff, policy wise, their view on social justice and different issues going along with that, of course. um, which I would encourage, if there is any conservatives listening, like, we all know, we all look towards something when we're going through things, or when we feel things are hopeless, regardless of the situation. And I think it's a matter of coming together and realizing we all do that, and to have a conversation such as we are now, to Damien's point, where it's not more so a debate, it's how we can take those common grounds and those common beliefs, even if it isn't the same God, but realizing, there could possibly be, or more likely is, a higher being of some sort out there. So let's all
Mhm.
come together under a banner and, you know, help, like you said earlier, fill each other's cup to a degree, while we're trying to take care of ourselves and just bolster each other instead of fighting with one another.
And I think a part of the problem is just is that we need to respect other people's rights to have different beliefs religiously. That you are not right. Does that make sense? And I find like sometimes with Christianity in particular, just because that's what we are seeing more of, there's this idea that their religion is the religion and everybody else is wrong and is going to go burn in, you know,
Absolutely.
internal
Yep.
hell. Eternal hell. Now, I'm sorry, but how can you logically believe that when there are people that have done amazing things around the world of all kinds of different religions, that God is going to send them to, like Buddha, Gandhi? I mean, Gandhi made some mistakes with a few things, but overall did a lot of positive things for the world and taught us how to protest peacefully and make a difference in the world. Do I believe he's in hell because he was Hindi? You know, of course not. That seems ridiculous to me. And you know, or the idea that maybe Schindler was Christian. I don't know for sure, but probably. Um, and he's going to go to heaven because he believed in God or Christ. And if there's a hell, I don't even believe there's a literal hell. I'm just talking from that perspective. That I can't wrap my mind around that.
Well,
I
it's
knew
used,
God was highly racist, Desiree. That's why I said problematic in some ways. Yes, he was
yeah,
racist.
and it's using the nuance that we have and can have in today's society when it comes to looking at religion and beliefs in that sense, right? Like just because somebody believes in something doesn't mean something in particular is going to happen to them. You know, you have to weigh how they were as an individual, what their actions were, what their rhetoric was, how they looked at other people based on, talking about Schittler, how he viewed other people based on skin color and disability and, you know, the list goes on, of course, but, that sort of stuff. And being able to call out when somebody's belief system or core values has flaws in it or has throughout history, and being able to have nuance in that sense, right? It's like looking at Canada as a whole when we talk about politics. Yes, we're not perfect. Yes, we don't got everything right, but hell, we want to make it better, so we have to acknowledge where the shortcomings are, and we have to do that within spirituality and religion as well.
Yeah. No, like, and the fact is that the Christian Bible contradicts itself in many places. And that's, and I'm only saying that because it's not a criticism. It's just pointing out that we can't count on the words written down by men 4,000, 2,000 years ago to be not influenced by their own biases and time. And it gets a lot more complicated than that. And it doesn't mean there's not good in there. Does that make sense? It just means that it needs to be looked at through the lens of knowing that this was 4,000 years ago and the world was a different place. And through the lens of the fact that it was a patriarchy that was in control at that time. And under the lens that they had biases because they wanted the religion to be certain things for them. And the book was edited based on that. And this isn't just Christianity. This is probably other religions as well. I just know a little bit more about the history of Christianity. And we need to be able to look at it from that lens and go that, like, when we hear about Jesus, we all know now that Dead Sea Scrolls and the other Bible, there are a lot of writings that didn't make it into that book, right? And those writings are probably just as valid. They came from the same point in time, from different people that the people building the religion didn't necessarily want. So they burned them. That was what they did in the 400s. They burned all of the material they had decided wasn't going to go into that book. So I'm not getting into religion. Sorry, Melba, but we're just, we are a little off topic. You know what? You got a good point there. But I was just trying to express why I just don't think one religion is not necessarily the right one, and that's for all religions. I'm just using Christianity as an example because I know more about it.
I think it's hard not to talk about politics these days without talking about Christianity, because the big push towards the awfulness is, it's not all Christians or whatever. I'm not trying to say it's Christian based, but it's a part of it. It's a part of the right wing kind of thing. And it's sort of like they've stolen Christianity, like they stole the flag, So I'm not trying to say there's something wrong with Christianity, but
there are certain certain sects of Christianity, not all of Christianity.
Yeah, exactly.
There's certain sects or people who are Christians who are very dogmatic, I guess, for lack of a better word, and take it very. Um, I don't know how to say this other than I feel like they really just need to reread the New Testament.
Yeah.
That would be a really good start. And Desiree, you wanted to come back up. I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to touch if you wanted to talk about the racism more or anything for that matter.
No, no. I mean, no. I didn't realize I got a message and I went over there and it booted me out, and I didn't realize. So I was just coming back in.
Can I respond at all?
Absolutely. Addicted. Do you mind, Desiree, if we just let
Yeah,
Addicted?
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I've had my hand up for like 15
I'm sorry.
minutes.
I haven't been able to watch and chat as well as I should be. So my apologies. I'll try to be more aware. Go ahead.
The spirituality thing, I think, is kind of triggering for many of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it goes in with politics and stuff. But the original question was, how do you deal with spirituality? Not how it associates with anybody else. And
No, fair. We got off topic.
I had a good answer, but now I'm kind of like triggered because it was everybody went off at a tangent, and yet when I came in, it was we're not going to talk politics.
No, you're
So
right.
I kind of get
We are
frustrated
talking about
when
how it affects our mental health, but you are, you know what? I'm new at this and I probably did get a little off topic. So I'm gonna own that.
thank you. Okay, for my own spirituality, I've just started to do like everybody else and go into nature when I can. But since with my mental illness, I've kind of made myself to the point where I can't leave my house. I've gotten candles that smell like nature.
Nice.
And one of my favorite ones is called it's called something like Borealis, and it smells like when you're outside watching the northern lights. And when I'm struggling because my mom was really big into her Roman Catholic, and I'm the only one in my family not associated with the church. That's what I do to deal with it because I can't go back. And it's a big hardship in my family because one of my nephews is a Lutheran pastor, and we butt heads hard.
Okay.
But he's also started to learn to be more compassionate to the to us LGBTQ plus because of me, and he's more compassionate about inviting them into his church because of me. So even though I'm not at a church, I feel like if we open up their minds a little and let them know, like you said, the history, and letting them know, like, we've always been here.
Yeah.
What they try to interpret it as something different and not actually use whatever. We're going to be here, and we're going to support each other, and we're going to keep fighting and keep dealing with those horrible commenters. Because I give you credit. I just started to block.
No, and everybody has different boundaries with that, and that's okay.
So I really appreciate you doing these lives, because even though I might have got triggered, I know I have a safe space to talk to you about it. And you've made it that way. It's the only reason I came back in the boxes, like, for a second time, because you have made this space so we can all talk from our experience.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
A quick question. You don't have to answer, but I'm curious. When you say that you don't go to church, is it because of being inside the house and not being able to go out, or is it because you've decided not to do church at all? Just because there are alternatives, if it's the first.
I came out as queer to my parents, and they were supportive. But Roman Catholics aren't.
Yeah.
My brother goes to a Roman Catholic church. Nephew's Lutheran. He's getting better.
Yeah.
But I haven't found a church. You know when you walk in a building,
yeah,
and you can either feel safe or you feel an anxiety attack hit you.
Yeah.
I haven't found a church that I don't have an anxiety attack in.
How about the United Church? Have you looked at those ones? Because I find they're much more LGBTQ friendly. They're not Catholic, but they are Christian.
I could maybe look into it, but I'm still struggling with the God aspect because I'm mad that he took my mom.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, it's a love-hate of she shouldn't have when she went.
Yeah.
So I'm spiritual, like, I believe, and I'm starting to get more into, like, I'm going to say indigenous teachings of, like, there's a couple indigenous that do the morning prayer and going and sitting for that and sitting at, like, Krista Fox has it where we can go and sit and be with each other and be just supportive. And just be, I don't know, like the presence and the drumming. Okay, you need a drumming. Look up Chubby Cree.
Okay, I'm going to write that down. Chubby Cree?
He's from Edmonton, and they do drumming, and his voice, you will feel body shivers all over. It's so powerful, and it's amazing medicine. The first time I heard him, I had him on repeat.
Nice.
Like, his whole family is amazing. And Fawn. Look up Fawn.
Fawn? Okay.
They are amazing. And I listen to them on Spotify or on YouTube, and it'll feel like you're out in nature.
That's awesome. I'm going to definitely look them up. I love drumming. It speaks to, again, it speaks to my soul, and I think a lot of people feel that way.
Be prepared to have some tears from how powerful it is, because the first time I bawled like a baby.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's just, and he was young. He was like 12. Yeah. So his medicine is powerful.
That is really cool.
So that's my spiritual.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it can look like so many different things, and that's awesome. But if you wanted to look at, like, churches or even online, United churches, they all have the LGBTQ friendly flags. So it should be a safe space. I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
It's the getting out of my house. Like, going to doctors is a struggle.
Yeah, exactly. So you might be able to find something online too, because a lot of pastors do stream now, just as an alternative. Only if you're interested, right? It's just some
Thank you. Yeah, I like the suggestion. Thank you.
You're welcome. And let's see. Have we gotten through everybody on the spiritual yet? Did you get it? I think you got a chance, Damien. So we'll probably wind down because we'll chat a little bit more. It's 1:53, but I don't want to start a new one. We might talk about the emotional aspect and some others next week, or we'll see. I haven't decided on my topic for next week yet. Does anybody have anything they want to add while we wind down before I give a closing statement or anything like that? Desiree?
Maybe can you refresh what we've gone over so far?
I can. We talked about the importance of self-care and radical self-care and putting yourself first. We've talked about what self-care looks like for us, and we've talked about the physical, psychological, and spiritual aspects of self-care in this live. So just some ideas about what, like winding down, what kinds of things you plan on doing, maybe. Right. Feed the physical, psychological, and spiritual this week. That would be a great.
Yeah,
meeting.
One of the things that the relationship I have with my husband.
Yeah.
And we've been married 2 years? Yes. 2023. Okay. So we talk. We talk about, like, if there, a political issue, we'll talk it through.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, if there's a issue in that comes up in the news about racism, like we actually have really good conversations,
Yeah.
and we have conversations about history, and that is self-care, to be able to talk to your spouse
Yeah.
and being heard. you
Yeah.
know I don't always want to be right, but I need to be heard.
And you have the right to be heard.
Yeah, and so that's the thing that is so significantly different in
Mm-hmm.
this relationship than previous ones, is our level of communication is so high, and we talk to each other, and we listen to each other,
Yeah.
and we hear each other. And I'm not telling people to go out and get that kind of relationship. I just happened to get really lucky. So did he,
Yeah.
for the record. But that, I didn't realize until it happened that that was the most important thing for me. Because then it's one less stress. It's one less thing I have to navigate with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to get out of the house away from him to get space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, um, he at times is part of my self-care.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And it's just knowing that you have somebody in your life who is open to hearing your feelings at any point in time
Yeah.
and not judge them,
Yeah.
and to hear out your opinions respectfully, even if they don't agree.
Well, he usually gets it after,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he is a YT person,
Yeah.
so we have a lot of discussions around race and gender and misogyny,
Yeah.
and and all of that. So I don't, um I can keep it in house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I have somebody immediate that can have those discussions with,
Yeah.
instead of calling up a friend and saying, I need to vent.
Mm-hmm.
I walk into the other room, and he usually knows before, I say anything, because I'm yelling at the TV or yelling at my phone or something. Um, yeah, it makes, for my mental health, it makes all the difference in the world.
That's awesome. And we'll ask Lori, did you want to wind down just on what you can do in the next week for your physical, psychological, and or spiritual health?
Well, maybe I can get out a little more this week. This past week, I didn't get out enough. Unfortunately, not being able to walk very well, I have to go out in the car. But I find it's just wonderful to
Yeah.
just even sit in the car. We have sunny days. So after this latest snowstorm passes,
Yeah.
I'm going to get out more. I also have to have breakfast with my friend Screaming Crow, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to make plans with her this week. She just came back from a fabulous trip, so I need to play catch up, and that helps me a lot, just having friends.
The psychological aspect for sure.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
support.
So that's it. Thank
That's a
you.
good plan.
Been great.
And how about you, Daniel? Or Damien, sorry. Damien.
I think I'm going to bake a little. I got
Nice.
this cardamom donut mix, and I like to make them into little mini cupcakes.
Oh, wow. I love cardamom. I'm
Yeah.
half Finnish, so it's a
Oh no, it's Cartem is the name of the company.
Cartum. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's different then. Okay.
yeah. They're like a specialty donut company out here in BC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And how about you, Addicted? What are your plans for this week to take care of your physical, psychological, or spiritual?
Next week, to deal with my physical,
Mm-hmm.
the plumber's coming back if the weather's warmer. My house is frozen, so pray for warmer weather. Mentally, come here. Like, this really helped. I was in a bad place before I logged in.
Oh,
So being around you all has really, yeah, I'm going to bawl. But y'all really helped today. I was in a rough spot. So thank you.
I'm glad you came, and I'm so sorry for getting off topic again. I'll keep a closer eye on myself. Uh,
No, it made me think. Like I may question some of the stuff, but it
mhm.
also educates me because it's stuff I don't always know. So I appreciate when.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm just emotional.
No, that's okay, and I appreciate it, and I'm so glad you came, and you know, you can still share. This is going to go up on YouTube if anybody you know, wants to send this out to anybody to go watch afterwards if you think it'll help. And I'm going to be here every Saturday from 12 to 2 to talk about these, to just talk about these things and have a forum to talk about our mental health and our emotions and our feelings with, you know, in general, everyday life and with the extra political stress that a lot of us are feeling. And
Okay,
I just,
now what are you gonna do?
what am I going to do? That's a great question. I am going to reach out for reconnect with my counselor. I already have an appointment with my doctor. I'm so taking care of my psychological health. I'm probably going to stop responding to posts during, say, from when I sign off. I'm only going to respond in the evenings. How's that? Like for weekdays anyway, or days when, you know, so that I have less centered on posting and taking care of my mental health and doing things for me, if that makes sense. So it's just setting kind of boundaries. So it's not that I may not put up a post in the morning, but I'm not going to respond to the haters until the night because that's when I have the time to do it, and that's when I'm setting aside time for that part of my life. Does that make sense? So just kind of setting some boundaries for myself for my own mental health. What else is there? Physically, I need to start doing some more yoga, like the stuff that it doesn't hurt my knees, because I haven't been doing it lately. And stretching, I find really beneficial. And when the weather is warm enough, take my dog for walks because I love having that time to bond with her. I've got this beautiful little, no, not little. Fat right now and needs to get walks, Pity Lab mix that I love. So she needs more walks. And spiritually, just taking that time to meditate and work on myself as well. So just connect to nature when I go on the walks because that takes care of the physical and the spiritual for me too because I'm very much a water person, and even in the winter going down to the river valley and looking at the ice and the frozen water just is for some reason I have a very deep connection with water. I find it very soothing. So anytime I can get to a body of water helps. So those are mine. Does
Thank
anyone
you
have
for
any
sharing
questions?
them. We all appreciate you doing self care for you too.
Oh yes, it's very important. Again, I you know I'm really good at teaching stuff, but I'm not always good at doing it. So I'm really holding myself accountable uh, to take on the self care because of everything that's going on. It's really important that we all take that time and make it. Self care isn't a band aid; it's a way of life, and remembering that we always have to keep looking out for the different aspects and feeding and filling those buckets. I'm just going to go quickly over our shows. Tonight we
Before
have
you do that, I just want to say it's nice to have an accountability buddy system in this group.
exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. And we're going to be closing down tonight. We have Radicalized 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. That's 8 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. He talks about the gray matter of politics and how religion is religion is impacting the political atmosphere. Then on Monday, we don't have anyone on Sunday right now, but on Monday we have Indigenous Matters. I almost always show up for Indigenous Matters because I love to learn more. And Treaty Six Birder is so amazing at teaching us about Indigenous matters. So it's a really great opportunity. Then on Tuesday we have News Hour with Frontline Feminist, who always is so informative and so up to date on the latest news. So I love listening to her as well. She is on from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time, which is 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesdays, we have the Mossy Side. It's a really great conversation with the Progressive Moose. I like to listen in on this one as well. I listen on at least part of almost all of them, to be honest. Thursday, the Navigation Station with the Misses is on in the afternoons. This is a new show. It's 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. She is going to be talking about education, resources, and solutions to help navigate the Canadian political landscape. Sometimes I listen in if I can, but most of the time I can't during those hours. But it's really great to talk about how to navigate the system, and really helpful. If you're here for the mental health education, navigation is another really great area to learn more about. So I would highly recommend that. And then we have also in the evening, Truth Through Discourse with Mrs. Radical. And that is 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time and 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the weekly discussions on relevant news topics or social issues. And finally, we have Friday, Canadian History with a Purple Crayon, hosted by Pixie Lee. This is another newer show. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Canadian History prior to Canada with a focus on BIPOC populations, which I think is, again, fantastic. And finally, my monitor went out. And well, my monitor is giving me a hard time. Oh, there we go. See if I can get it back, because I don't have all this memorized. I wish I was that good. Okay, so finally, Polly Talk with Nerdy, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, up to 6 hours. And it is awesome. You see a lot of awesome conversation happening in there. And that is a weekly debate. So it is the only debate that we have ongoing with anybody who's opposition who wants to come up and chat. And that is it. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to end the live now. Thank you for your gifts and your follows and shares. And I really do appreciate all of you. And make sure that you take the time this week to, focus on some areas of your self-care and your mental health. And as always, have a great day, and I will see you next Saturday, live anyway. Bye, everyone.